what has been difficult is also to talk about with our kids, though, the hate and the discrimination that is out there and what they hear. They're getting older. They do see the news, and so
Yeah.
being able to talk to them about that and consistently share with them that differences should be celebrated
Right.
and diversity should be celebrated, and we should always use our voices.
From the news team at LinkedIn, I'm Jessi Hempel, and this is Hello Monday. Happy Pride, everyone. It is June, and it's a big June. This year marks 10 years since marriage equality became a reality. And I really can't tell you how significant this has been for my family personally. I'm part of a two-mom family. Frances and I have two little kids. They're 4 and 6, and they do the things that kids do. Like not so long ago, my son, we were walking to the park and he wiped out on the sidewalk, right? He cut his head and it was gushing blood, and we knew immediately he needed stitches. So I ran to the hospital and Frances met me and they ushered us right back to the ER, and a very nice doctor gave him 3 little stitches right across his forehead. And I took it for granted in that moment that I didn't need to tell anyone, to prove to anyone that I was his mom. Now, even if someone had asked me, I could have produced that proof in the form of a legal document that said I was married to Frances, or the birth certificate in which my name is listed as the second parent. Folks, that is revolutionary if you grew up when I did, which wasn't that long ago. When I was 19 and just coming out of the closet, marriage equality felt like a dream. So far off, it wouldn't happen in my lifetime. Fast forward all these years, and I have so many protections I never even dreamed of for a family that I was able to create. Now, if you are listening to this right now in the spring of 2025, all of that probably feels a little more precarious. It's keeping me up at night. I'll be honest with you. Since I didn't carry the children, my wife did, I'm actually adopting my own children, just in case gay marriage falls in the future. This moment doesn't feel great. It makes me nervous. I'm sad about it. And that's why today I wanted to devote a Pride episode to how we keep families like mine and families like yours, safe, secure, and thriving. Now I have the coolest guest for you today. Her name is Darra Gordon, and she is the CEO of a nonprofit called Family Equality. Darra is one of the fiercest advocates I know for queer families everywhere. She's also, I gotta tell you, a working mom just like the rest of us, trying to balance career ambitions and carpool pickup. She gets it right more than she gets it wrong. Also, Darra is a personal friend. We've known each other since long before either of us were married or had children. Today's episode is really for anyone who is LGBTQ+. It's for anyone at all who has children or is dreaming of children. And it's for anyone who loves someone who's queer. And I hope when we're done here in the studio today, you feel confident in how you yourself, no matter who you are or where you are, can stand up for all children, for all families, and for a future that we create together. Now, here's Darra. We get started by talking about her own family.
I was older. I was established in my career. I was thinking about being a single mother by choice.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted kids. I wasn't sure how it was all going to go. And so I was on the planning route. It was, I needed resources. I needed information. How do I go about it? How do I plan? And lo and behold, fast forward, I'm raising 3 children with my wife today. So I have more kids than I initially planned in my mind. I have a wife and I have a really abundance, as my family. So sometimes you set out in one direction and you end up in another. But what I did know is I wanted to be a parent.
Yeah.
That was what I knew. And I was consistent in my dream for that.
Well, I remember those early days, and I remember vaguely when you were on the path to single parenthood and sort of designing that idea, and then you also in parallel were falling in love because the universe is really funny that
Yes,
way.
it
It's
is.
so funny. And then one day you said, I think we're about to have Irish triplets. Are you sitting down? Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, life is funny, right? Two women having just this big unexpected family.
And you don't live in New York City anymore.
Mm,
You live in a town. Is it a town where you feel like you have a lot of representation of families that look like yours?
So we were very intentional
Mhm.
also about where we moved, to make sure it was a diverse community. There was representation. We wouldn't be alone. It was the school system,
Yeah.
was strong. And but when we got there, it was really strange because I've always had deep community and friends and felt the belonging like right away. And there was it was hard to really find our place.
Yeah.
And one day I woke up, and it's a lovely community, but one day I woke up and we started to get connected to queer families.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what's been missing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so in our town, we've actually developed community within our town. And it's been transformative actually. And I think it's been transformative for our kids to see other queer families within our community.
I think about this a lot because we live in a, as most of the folks who listen to our show regularly know or come join us at the table. My wife and I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and when we went into parenthood, our social life day to day was very queer, and just out of just a sense of the people that we had come up with over the years, and then we started school. And very quickly, our social life has shifted, and it consists mostly of the people who are at baseball practice with us and the people who are going to share drop off responsibilities
Yeah,
with us, who
absolutely.
are, by the way, great folks,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
But I did have this moment where I looked up and realized we're going to need to create a mirror for our children to see families that look like theirs. And at the same time, I realized I thought I needed it. And I want to explore that with you a second because I don't understand it for myself. What do I need about it? I can feel it emotionally, but I don't know what it is.
I think it's like finding your people. You can have amazing connections, and we have incredible allies, but there's the connectivity, there's the understanding of what we've gone through together, the barriers we're facing together within the schools, within our communities, and I think it is just really being able to connect with people in a way that we just understand each other.
Another thing that it does for me is it gives me fortitude to be in more mixed communities and to feel stronger about my own voice, my own authenticity, what I bring to the table. Um, because I've got the support in the background to know that it
Yes.
matters, right?
Yes,
And so if
yes.
I'm in a mixed community and something doesn't quite feel right, if I can't speak up for myself, I can speak up on behalf of my community, right? And that feels really critical to me too. So I want to actually explore your career a little bit because I find it very compelling that you, in fact, you've come up in the nonprofit sector and you have you have done a considerable amount of your work with the queer community, first at Hedrick Martin Institute, and then at GLAAD, and now in this exciting role that we'll talk about in a minute with family equality. But when you were getting started, how did you end up going down that path?
So I always knew I wanted to do something to change the world, right?
Mhm.
To make it a better place, to be a part of social justice and advocacy. And I wasn't sure where that would be. Then I came out, and I was really in my coming out phase, and I knew where I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And I also was a young person, very ambitious, and I was concerned at that time, like, will my career, like, will it be impacted? How will it affect me? It was hard to be out.
Tell me, how old were you?
I was 28,
28.
29.
Coming out meant
Yes.
coming out to a group of people that were also professional colleagues to some degree.
Yes.
Yeah. That's scary.
It's scary. And when you come out, you don't come out once, right?
Yeah.
You consistently come out. And so it was it was very scary. When you come out to somebody, you never know
Yeah.
what will happen next, right? How they will react. My eyes started to open up, like, this is who I am. And you can see the barriers and like, if I struggled, given all my opportunities that had been presented to me, I knew how hard it was for other community members and other folks. And then being able to open up to hear the stories of folks and really building my community. And it became really apparent that this was I think Edie Windsor said it, it's like a love affair of a community. I just fell in love
Yeah.
with our people and with our community, and an opportunity presented. I went after it, and an
Yeah.
opportunity presented itself, and it was I for the first time in my life, I brought my full self to work, and it felt great.
Okay, explain that to us a little bit.
As queer people, there's masking that happens, right? You present yourself in a certain way, or if they find this out about me, in the workplace, I don't know if that's going to impact my work or how people will think about me. So when you're in work, you're just all about work.
Yeah.
And then when you bring your full self, you bring everything, right? And even today, right, I bring my family. I talk about my family. I bring my personal life, and you're better, and you
Yeah.
bring your better version of yourself.
It's wonderfully spoken. Another thing that has shifted over the course of our adulthood, uniquely, Darra, is that at many companies now, um, it is illegal to discriminate against us, and we are afforded benefits that we wouldn't have been necessarily afforded when you and I began our work
Yes.
lives. I mean, it's pretty profound to think, to some degree, how much better things have become for families that look like my family and your family in terms of legal protections that are available. We also have a sense in the broader world that things are shifting, and maybe not in great ways. It's in that context that I was particularly excited earlier this spring when you took a new leadership role as the head of an organization called Family Equality. And I want to talk all about family equality today. So tell us a little bit about what family equality is and why this role makes sense for you.
So we're the leading LGBTQ family organization in the nation. We provide resources, supports, community for all families along their entire journey, from family formation to family maintaining to empty nesters. We also advocate for their protections and rights for policy.
Okay, so what are the kinds of protections you advocate for that I might not even be thinking about?
So, yeah, I mean, I think exactly to your point, right? There's this sense of privilege and, like, we are protected.
Mhm.
But in the reality is there's so many legal rights that we don't have. Um, for example, in 14 states, you can discriminate against somebody for foster or adoption care. So
Mhm.
if we were living in some of these states and you and your wife wanted to adopt, just because of who you are, you can be turned away.
So I think that actually is true in one of the two states where our family makes our home, right, in
Yes.
Mississippi.
Yes.
And so if we wanted to create a family in Mississippi right now, if we came out as a queer family and went in the process that way, it would be fine to say no to us if we.
It would be legal.
Yeah.
Yes. And in 10 states, the language isn't explicit
Okay.
about it. So the protections aren't there. So there's only 20 states in this nation that actually protects families like ours through adoption and foster care.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of thousands of children that want their forever family,
Right.
and they're denied it, and we're denied it.
So let's talk about one way that queer families often come about, which is surrogacy. I have good friends right now that are exploring surrogacy. Surrogacy is a wild idea. And in fact, there are many countries outside of the United States, first world countries, where it's just off the table. It is available to us in the United States, but I have this sense that there are things about it that may be precarious.
Yeah, I mean, in this country, depending upon the state of the surrogate, the legal protections, the risks, the threats um, are precarious, right?
Mhm.
You can have a surrogate, and they have more legal protections than you do as the parent.
That's terrifying if you're just going into this. And of course, so often we see the stories of things that go right, and we don't necessarily feel the stories of things that go wrong.
Yes.
And how does family equality work to support surrogacy families?
So we are up on the Hill fighting for federal protections. We will not stop, regardless of the administration. And then we are also going state by state. And so there's a patchwork of protections across this entire country. And we even are doing work in New York State and building out a movement to go to all the states to ensure that there are protections. And so we have a legal team on the ground.
Okay, so right now what we're talking about is actually having children, creating children within queer families. But you also do a lot of work to make sure that queer families, especially families with children, with minors, are safe and entitled to the rights of all families. Do you worry at all about the possibility of gay marriage falling right now?
We are doing everything that we need to do to protect gay marriage. So that's one of the federal protections. And so we're really fortunate to have Jim Obergefell on the Family Equality's board of directors. He was part of the case with Hodges and Obergefell that won marriage equality for us.
Right. Darra is dropping these names like Edie Windsor. That, of course, for me and for Darra, that's like you're talking about.
Iconic. Yes. We're on the shoulders of
these are the
folks.
activists who put in the time and the energy so
Yes.
that I don't think twice about the fact that I am the legal parent for my children, despite not having carried them.
And this June is the 10-year anniversary of that.
That's pretty profound.
It is.
Do you remember where you were when that decision came down?
Gosh, yes, I was in New York City, really in the midst of my family, and my wife and I just looked at each other, I'm sure like many couples did, and said, it's time. We get to do this.
Yeah, I have to say, it makes me feel emotional to even think about it. What are the other things that family equality does?
So aside from the critical needs of legal protections, we actually are, you can say, the destination for all families wherever they're at in their journey. So at some point, right, when people are thinking about forming their family, many times they don't know where to start. They don't know where to go. And so we have resources. We have webinars. You can go right to our website. We connect to other groups. And so really ensuring folks are educated, they understand their legal rights, they understand the resources around them. And we really connect to other community groups as well for families. So that's the beginning of their journey, right? But it doesn't end there and the needs around it. So all the way through, like I had littles like you have, right? Starting school and really understanding how to navigate the school system, how to talk to your children, support groups around that, understanding the policies and the laws within, your schools, to older kids, right? And people don't necessarily know that children of LGBTQ parents are more likely to get bullied. And it didn't even occur to me, right? Our oldest is non-binary. And so again, ensuring that they're safe and free of bullying. But our straight other kids also experience that.
The bullying piece is really interesting, Darra. In some respect, it doesn't surprise me. If you come from a family that looks different than the families in your community, it doesn't surprise me that kids would point to that and to you. But what is more compelling to me about that is the what next question, right? And if you've been a parent and you have had a child who has had a tough time in school, especially getting up to middle school, maybe it's because they're queer parents, or maybe it's because of 1,000 other reasons that children pick on each other. Often you're faced with the question of where do I turn? How do I arm my child for this life that they are in, right? So what might someone do if they have those kinds of questions?
They can always come to us, and that's why, we have resources, we have groups, we can provide information to help them navigate that. I think you need to talk to your children, right? And I think it's really important for them to understand that difference should be celebrated, and differences are wonderful, right?
Yeah.
And who we are is really special. I also think people need to use their voices and speak out, right? School board meetings, the administration.
I remember when I was writing my book, The Family Outing, a few years ago, my editor really pushed me to go back and figure out, well, how many kids live in families that have two parents that are the same sex? And first of all, it's kind of the wrong question because that is really different than living in queer families, families that have two parents that are the same sex. But second of all, it is actually almost impossible to really know, both because nobody measures that and also because everything intersects, right? Often queer families are also families managing divorce. And also often there are families who are, as you say, struggling with like income or have other challenges. And so to try to isolate and name them is to give short shrift to so many people who have the potential to get real support and to need real support from a group like Family Equality, I would imagine.
No, absolutely. I think the definition of family has evolved so dramatically. We started when gay and lesbian people were leaving their heterosexual marriages to live their authentic lives.
Right.
But they were
in the late 70s, early 80s,
Yep,
right?
Yep, in 1979. But they were met with losing their parental access and their rights because of that.
And that was primarily men at that point, right?
Yes.
I mean, think back to, when I say think back to, I want to be clear. I was, just a few years old. I don't remember it, but history tells me that was a period of time when, if you were a man and you were leaving a straight marriage and coming out, you probably had a lot of garbage yourself around whether you even deserved to be a parent, right? The coming out process, which is always turbulent at any time in history, was particularly charged against the backdrop of HIV and AIDS. And I can imagine that at that point, this organization felt like an emergency.
Yes.
Right? So then how did it evolve? This year, it's hard to see progress, right?
Yes.
But you have to look at this year against the backdrop of our lifetimes.
Exactly. And no, it's absolutely true. And even within just last year alone, 85% of anti LGBTQ legislation introduced into law was defeated. We defeated that with other movement partners. So there is progress. 10 years of marriage equality. While it's unprecedented times, we've been doing this for 45 years.
Right.
And we are not going anywhere.
Right.
And we are doubling down.
So that is the big picture. Bring us back home, Darra. Tell me about how you explain your family to your kids.
I am honest with our kids. Children understand love and fairness and family better than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
And so our story has evolved, but we basically talk about in an age-appropriate way that as two women, we needed some help.
Yeah.
And thank goodness people were there to help.
Yeah.
What has been difficult is also to talk about with our kids, though, the hate and the discrimination that is out there and what they hear. They're getting older. They do see the news, and so being able to talk to them about that and consistently share with them that differences should be celebrated.
Right.
And diversity should be celebrated, and we should always use our voices.
To me, that is the power that family equality also has, right? Because as our children start to grow up, we can't save them and don't want to save them from the world. We want them to go out into that world. But just as I am a stronger version of me when I have an opportunity to be in community with other queer parents, queer people, when I have the opportunity to put my kids in real relationships with children who are also growing up in queer households, it fortifies them. Or at least I like to think that it does.
Absolutely.
And family equality does that too, right? You have gatherings specifically.
Yes. And I think now more than ever, after the pandemic, people are so hungry for community. And our community loves community, right?
What does your community look like? I have been to exactly one bowl-a-thon. It was cool. It was a lot of fun, right? But, if people want to, like, figure out how to put their children in community with other families, can they do it through you, and how?
Absolutely. We're going beyond a New York City bowl-a-thon. We have Family Week in P-Town, which is an incredible celebration and gathering. We were just in Atlanta. We actually had Family Weekend in Georgia, and bringing community resources together. It was incredible. People come from all over, actually. In P-Town, over 30 states. In Family Week in the South, it was multiple states. We're in the Midwest. We do Family Weekend in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So we are, like I said, we're doubling down. We're working with the community that's also serving the community members, right? So we're not doing it alone, and we can't do it alone. We
Yeah.
really need to lock arms together. Some folks are still also, they enjoy digital spaces. So we have support groups, community groups through the digital spaces. And I really always suggest for folks to just seek out what resources you have. And again, you can come to our website, ask the information. We can share what are the resources, where are the community groups to go.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. What do your kids think about your new job, Darra?
They're very proud and excited.
Uh-huh.
They're all very different. So I have
Mhm.
3 middle schoolers. I would say it's a mixed bag. Our oldest, who's come out as non-binary, couldn't be more excited. They have queer flags all over their room. They're ready to roll with me in this movement. Our other twin is just really proud, and I would say just an incredible cheerleader and support. And my son, who's amazing, just wants to make sure I won't miss any hockey games.
Well, I get that. That's part of what it means to be a really great parent.
Yes,
You can also miss 1 or 2 hockey games, and he'll be okay.
absolutely, he will be.
I love
But
this.
I love those hockey games. One thing to
Yeah.
all of our allies as well, we talked a lot about community and LGBTQ,
Yeah.
but there has been no civil rights movement that has ever been won without allies. And I just want to say how important our allies are in this moment as well. And so I really encourage folks to listen, to learn, to use your voice of influence, whether it's your place of business, your school board meeting, your dinner table, wherever it is. Join us and be a part of this with us.
That was Darra Gordon. She is the CEO of Family Equality, and you can learn a lot more about family equality by checking out the website, familyequality.org. And again, I want to say to everybody, happy Pride. Pride is such a joyful time in our lives. It is a celebration of community. It is a celebration of the invitation to step into your most authentic selves. And this year, I really want to mark it as a celebration of families, all families. Now, if you want to do something to be an ally in your community, regardless of your background, this is your invitation. Sure, go to Family Equality. There are a lot of resources for you there, but this is your invitation to step closer to the people in your own life. Where are the queer families right around you? How well do you know them? How well can you know them? This is a moment where community is worthy of celebration, and it is the path to liberation regardless of our political context. That is the way that you can celebrate Pride with me and my family this year. Now, let's talk more about it, shall we? Join us at office hours this week. We will get together at 3 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday afternoon, just as we always do. That is me and our senior producer, Sarah Storm. Bring your coffee, bring your tea. If you're on the West Coast, bring your lunch. You can find the link for office hours in our show notes, or you can just look on the LinkedIn news page. We will be there. And if this episode landed with you, I hope you'll text it to a friend. It's one small thing you can do to keep this conversation going. Thanks for joining us in the studio. This is Hello Monday, and I am Jessi Hempel. I'll see you next time.